Welcome back to the crossover on this beautiful Friday, the 30th of August. It's the last Friday of the summer. Start to this Labor Day weekend here. We've got a whole bunch of stories to cover. The Aiyuk drama, the Aiyuk saga has finally came to an end. But what does this mean for Trent Williams? Jamar Chase still out there trying to get his stuff figured out. Speaking of stuff to figure out, Real Madrid and Mbappe, their struggles continue. Chelsea slipped up last night. We've got a whole bunch of drama in both the conference and the Europa League qualifiers last night. A whole bunch of great college football going on last night. Got to cover all of that today. And we've got the start of a brand new tradition here on the crossover. Let's get into all of it. But before we get into all of that, I want to just make a deal with you, okay? If you go down and click that big red subscribe button for me, I can promise you that every day you will have a video on this channel to watch talking all things in sports. We're on the road currently to 1,000 subscribers. The more subscribers, the more likes, the bigger we can grow this community, the bigger that we can grow this channel, which obviously means we can upgrade our setup. We can get some cool guests on here to have some cool conversations for you guys to ask them questions, get to know them a little bit better, and get invited to certain events. Obviously, we're out here in New York City. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I want to show off. So the more that we can grow this platform, the more that we can grow this together, the cooler guests, the cooler conversations, and the cooler places that we can go. So if you could just hit that subscribe button, it would mean the world to me. Now let's get into the video. Let's start obviously with the biggest news of the day. Brandon Aiyuk is staying with the San Francisco 49ers. They agreed on a 4-year, $120 million deal. Now all summer, all offseason, there was talks. Does Aiyuk stay with the 49ers? Is he going to the Browns? Is he going to the Steelers? Obviously, the Commanders had a late push in there after, not a late push, but people were talking about it. Once they sent Dotson over to the Eagles, got a third rounder for him. Obviously, him and Jaden Daniels were teammates in college. Third round seemed to be like an ask for the 49ers. So there was talk of him going there. But after all is said and done, Brandon Aiyuk is staying in San Francisco. And the crazy part about this is he signed the same exact deal that was offered to him back on August 10th. That means that for the past 3 weeks, I don't know if they've been negotiating and Aiyuk was trying to get that up and he started to realize, hey, the season's about to start. I'm about to start getting fined game checks. Let me just go ahead and sign this. But to me, kind of from like a cynical perspective, it just seems like Aiyuk did not want to go to camp. He knew that they were going to agree on that. They said, you know what, let's just push this off till after camp is over. I don't really want to show up for camp. I'm going to show up week 1. You already know what you're going to get out of me. I already know the playbook. I already know everything. You just send me out there week 1. I'll go for 100 yards. Nobody will ever talk about this. Nobody will ever worry about this ever again. So that's from my idea what Aiyuk did here in this situation. Now, I could be wrong. There could have been talks ongoing, whatever. But for me, even more pressing than the Aiyuk situation was the Trent Williams situation, or still is the Trent Williams situation, because as of right now, he is not with the 49ers. Again, this could be a similar situation to what I just mentioned about Aiyuk. He'll be back week 1. They'll slot him right into the line. Obviously, you need him to protect for CMC. You need him to protect for Brock Purdy. So Trent Williams is definitely a key piece that the Niners are going to need, especially if they want to win now, which what seems like this Aiyuk deal is. We need to win now. Obviously, next offseason, you're going to have to pay Purdy. All of this stuff is going to start adding up. The championship window is very, very fastly closing, or rapidly closing, I should say, for these 49ers. So I'm going to assume that the Trent Williams deal is going to get done. And another deal that needs to get done now is that Jamar Chase deal. Obviously, he's still under contract for 2 years, but he's saying, I'm not going to go out there and pay for $1 million next year, which you shouldn't. Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. Again, this is something that I'm assuming is going to get done. Obviously, the Bengals coach came out, said yes, 100%. I'm counting with Jamar Chase. He then came out later and said, I kind of put my foot in my mouth there. Jamar Chase shows up in quote-unquote street clothes, 13 minutes late to practice. So a whole situation there. Again, I think that the Jamar Chase situation is going to get done. I think it needs to get done as fast as possible, because then you start looking at, is he eligible for week 1? Is he not? Let's see what happens there. All right, and now keeping on the subject of figuring it out, Real Madrid and Mbappe, man, they have to figure this out. Madrid is actually in a pretty bad situation right now. Through 3 games, they have already dropped 4 points. They won 1, and they have 2 draws. Definitely not in the pedigree of Madrid to be dropping points, especially this early last night or yesterday. They tied to Las Palmas 1-1. They went down 1-0 in the 5th minute of the game. Then later on in the 69th minute, there's a penalty, which is kind of iffy. I get why it was called a penalty. The defender was kind of falling to the ground as the shot was shot. as he's falling, I don't think he makes himself any bigger. I think he's just bracing for the fall. But every year, it seems like the rules change on what's a handball, what's not a handball. Regardless, all that matters is that the penalty was given. And as soon as that penalty is given, at least me, I just assumed that Mbappe was going to step up, take that penalty, get his first goal in the La Liga season, and kind of see if that can get his motor going. But the penalty was given to Vinicius. Again, still makes sense. Still makes sense. 100% Vinicius was a penalty taker last year. He should be the penalty taker this year. He's been there longer than Mbappe, whatever it is. But I thought it was going to be one of those situations where it's like, hey, Mbappe's our striker. Let's get our striker that first goal. Let's see if we can get him going. But Vinicius ends up taking it, and Madrid can't score a goal in open play against Las Palmas. Very bad situation there. Valverde in that midfield, back-to-back players of the matches. Valverde's been going absolutely ballistic. But what's missing in that midfield is a massive gap, which is Jude Bellingham, in my opinion. Jude Bellingham is out for, I believe it's a month, is what they're saying right now. It could be more, it could be less, obviously. But it seems like he's going to be out for a month. Mendy at left back, subbed off at halftime. Again, the game before that they won 3-0, he was serving a red card suspension in the first half. He gets a yellow card. I don't know if that was Ancelotti saying, hey, listen, we can't have you getting another yellow card. Brahim Diaz also gets subbed off at halftime, so it seems like there was a lot of tactical moves that Ancelotti was trying to make to see if they could come out and beat Las Palmas, and still all of that wasn't enough to even score a goal in open play. I think this is a very, very concerning situation for Real Madrid here, being 4 points behind Barca already this early. The Champions League, we're like, 2.5 weeks away from the start of the Champions League, so they can't count for Bellingham for the Champions League. I feel like this is a terrible situation. Obviously, Real Madrid, they got Dortmund at home, Liverpool, Milan, Atalanta, Salzburg, Lille, Stuttgart, and Brest. And honestly, at this point, Real Madrid have to be hoping that they have to play Brest that first game, especially being that Jude Bellingham will slowly be coming back into the lineup, and hopefully they can start meshing, and hopefully they can start figuring some stuff out. Because let's say that they have to go to Anfield in 2.5 weeks without Bellingham, still with all of this uncertainty going on with Mbappe. I believe Mbappe scored like 2 goals in his past, 10 games? 12 games, something like that. He's only scored 2 goals, so Mbappe's got to find his form. They got to start meshing together. And we're going to talk about Mbappe a little bit later once we get to the hot take section, but big mess here for Ancelotti to take care of. And speaking of messes, last night, Chelsea lost in a qualifier game for the Conference League. Now, those pairs of words don't even seem to belong in the same sentence together. Chelsea Conference League losing in a qualifier, but I guess this is the current state of Chelsea. I'm optimistic for this year's Chelsea. I think Chelsea is turning the corner. I think Chelsea is going to be a favorite in the Conference League, but the fact they just narrowly squeaked in, that should just never be happening against a team that I didn't even know existed from Geneva, Spain. There's much talk about the pitch, about the conditions of the stadium, whatever it may be, especially on the second goal, because goalkeeper Jorgensen, who is one of 37 different goalkeepers on this Chelsea lineup as of right now. Apparently, a couple of nights before the game, word on the street is they just threw all the goalkeepers' names into a hat. They picked one out, and he was the one selected to play the game. That's obviously a joke. Don't take that seriously. There was a completely brand new back line against the one from Wolves. But there were still a lot of starters on the pitch. I mean, Enzo was on the pitch, Nkunku was on the pitch, Madueke was on the pitch, Mudryk was on the pitch, Nico Jackson later came onto the pitch, Cole Palmer, Caicedo, which I guess is a little bit of hope for the Chelsea fans, seeing that Caicedo is now back out on the pitch after obviously having to be subbed off for injury. There was no Felix and there was no Neto. I'm assuming that that's just because they weren't on the lineup sheet when the knockout started, and now they have to get added into their lineup or whatever it is. But again, there's still no reason that Chelsea should be losing this game. The fact that they couldn't even score a goal in open play, the only goal came in the 13th minute off of a penalty kick, which was obviously a penalty, 100% a penalty, no doubt about that one. But the fact that they go out and lose, it's just not a good look for Chelsea. It's just not any good momentum that came off of that 6-2 win versus Wolves. Kind of just gets erased there. There was a lot of backups. The back line was backups. The goalie was backups. But again, that attack still should have been able to work something, should have been able to do something. But Chelsea, figure it out here, boys. And since we're already talking about Europa League and Conference League qualifiers, there was a whole bunch of drama last night, a whole bunch of comebacks. And let's start with Besiktas taking on Lugano from Switzerland. They are tied 3-3, going back to Turkey, going back to Besiktas' house. Immobile, he says, listen, I might have not scored in the first leg, but now you're in my house. 7 minutes in, he scores. Now it's 4-3 on aggregate. Vladi in the 59th minute says, oh, but we're not going down without a fight. He scores. Now it's 4-4 on aggregate. Then my Benfica boys show up to play. Jetson Fernandez said, hey, listen, I scored 2 at your house in Switzerland. It's time for me to score 1 at home as well. 5-4 on aggregate in the 64th minute. 6 minutes later, Rafa Silva, my other Benfica boy, says, listen, it's my second start for Besiktas. How about I score my second goal? It sends 6-4 on aggregate. A minute later, Immobile says, hey, Rafa, 2 goals in 2 matches. How about 2 goals in the same match? He scores again. 7-4 in the 96th minute. Salih Aiyuk scores a nice little consolidation goal, just a little cherry on the top. He scores and says, now you can go home. 8-4. Besiktas carries through in the Europa League. Lugano is out. And then the scenes in Romania's FCSB seems a little bit redundant there. Tied with LASK 0-0, 1-1 on aggregate in the 93rd minute. On his left foot, cuts inside, power of Romania behind his left foot, bar down, and that is all she wrote. FCSB through to the Europa League and LASK out. Then in the Conference League, FC Astana coming back to Kazakhstan after losing 2-0 to Brann in Norway. It was going to take a miracle. In the 60th minute, Nigerian beast Geoffrey Chinodu keeps the hope alive and says, okay, well, maybe, just maybe we can pull this off, as he scores. Then in the 81st minute, he delivers another one and says, hey, let's take this into extra time. But then in the 91st minute, after being up 2-0, being tied 2-2 on aggregate, all signs point to extra time. Ramazan Kamirov, Kazakhstan native, says, hey, there is no need for extra time. I'm going to end it right here. 3-2, FC Astana into the Conference League, and Brann out after winning 2-0 at home. FC Noah from Armenia going to Slovakia to take on Ruzom Mubarak. They had already taken care of business at home. 3-0. They're going in. They're saying, hey, boys, let's just not fumble this one. Let's just not have anything crazy happen. We're already up 3. But then Lutheran for FC Noah scores in the 10th minute. Right before halftime in the 45+2, Hladik scores. Now it's 3-2. FC Noah's getting a little bit nervous. Ruzom Mubarak is saying, hey, boys, maybe we could just do this. In the 70th minute, there is a foul, red card, penalty to FC Noah. Now it's 3-3. Not so fast. We've got to come back. But then in the 88th minute, Mateus Arias, the Brazilian superstar, who on Foot Mob, his preferred foot is listed as both. Well, guess what? He didn't use his left foot. He didn't use his right foot. He preferred to use his head to score the 1 goal that FC Noah needed. 88th minute, FC Noah keeps on going into the Conference League, while Ruzom Mubarak, it was a great effort. But you're gone. Panathinaikos from Greece had lost 2-1 to Lens in France, but they said, hey, boys, just wait till you come over to our house and feel the Greek heat. Pellistri in the 62nd minute, who was once bought by Manchester United for $8.6 million. 4 years and only 25 appearances later, more loan spurts than goal contributions for United, gets his first goal for Panathinaikos after being sold for $6 million. And what a time to get it. Equalizes up on the aggregate 2-2. Fast forward 20 minutes. In the 85th minute, there's a scrum in the box. There's a good play by Lens. It seems like Lens is going to score. Defenders are slipping and sliding. There's calls for penalty by the Lens attackers. The Panathinaikos defender boots the ball up the field, and who is there but Mancini to carry the ball down the pitch. Panathinaikos 2 versus 1. Mancini slots the ball across. That puts the ball in, and Panathinaikos into the Conference League. Lens fumbles it after being up 2-1 at home. And then in another matchup of two teams that I had no idea even existed, NK Pledge down 1-0 to Punic after losing in Armenia. But they say, hey, listen, you're coming into Slovenia. This is Luka Doncic's house. 11 minutes in, the Armenians got a red card. Stuff starts looking difficult for them. 11 minutes after, in the 22nd minute, the Slovenian native Nemanja scores. I probably just said his name wrong. Right before the half, there's a penalty for Kelik. Bobniak slots it in. 5 minutes into the second half, a red card for midfielder Mario Kvesic. Now it's 10 on 10. Klekchik still up 2-1 on Punic. In the 63rd minute, Punic, you get a pen as well. 2-2 on aggregate. 10 minutes later, Lithuanian striker Armando Kucic says, hey, not so fast, Punic. You're still in our house, the house that Luka Doncic built. 3-2 on aggregate, and then he gets another one just for good measure late in like the 88th minute. Kletch knocks out Punic. And then in another matchup that I can assure you that you don't know either team, because not even FootMob knows one of these teams, we have the Lincoln Red Imps FC, who don't even have a profile on FootMob. If you go on FootMob, click their team, it just gives you a blank page. Apparently they're from Gibraltar. They're up 2-1 against Larne, who is from Northern Ireland. The Red Imps might not have a FootMob profile, but they certainly have a goal. They go up 3-1 on aggregate in the 20th minute. 10 minutes later, there's a penalty for Larne from Northern Ireland. Andy Ryan slots it in, 3-2. In the 43rd minute, right before the half, another penalty for Larne. And who steps up but Andy Ryan slots another pen. That's 2 pens on the day. 3-3, tied at half, and those Northern Irish boys were like, hey, boys, maybe we can make something happen here. This is our house now. We're no longer in Gibraltar. In the 59th minute, the Northern Irish, gritty, they're tough, they're fighters, but maybe just a little bit too tough, because Christopher Gallagher plays the same position as Conor Gallagher, but absolutely no relation. He gets a red card, so now the Northern Irish are playing down a man, but still tied on aggregate. And in the 83rd minute, Andy Ryan, who had already scored 2 penalties, they said, listen, I can't be known as a pen merchant around here. He comes in, scores a goal, 83rd minute. The Red Imps are back to Gibraltar to apply for their FootMob profile. Hopefully they can get one for next year. And then in the final piece of drama that we're going to cover for all of these qualifiers, we have Puskás FC Academy, which doesn't even sound like a real team. It sounds like something that you would name your ultimate team in EAFC. In their 19th year of existence versus Fiorentina, who was in their 99th season in existence. They had tied 3-3 in Italy. Puskás coming home, coming back to Hungary, trying to make a name for themselves, trying to make the brilliant shining moment in their mere 19 years of existence. They go down in the 59th minute when Moise Keane puts one in for Fiorentina, but not so fast. Late in the game, they kept on fighting, they kept on going, and then in the 94th minute, Luca Ranieri commits a foul inside of the box. Not only does he get a red card, but there is also a penalty for Puskás Academy. And in the 97th end slot, Nagy slots it in, but it wouldn't be the last penalty that he takes, because no, we are now going into extra time. Puskás FC Academy playing up a man into extra time. Fiorentina gets another red card in the 97th minute, and things get worse. Pietro Comuzzo gets a red. Now it's 11 versus 9. Puskás FC. Puskás watching from up above. Is this going to be the moment that they cement themselves in their early history? Then there's another red for Lucas Cuarta, but he wasn't even on the field at that point. He was just complaining to the refs on the bench. He gets a red card as well. Technically 3 red cards, but only down 2 men. But then Puskás can't score, and it goes into penalties. And David De Gea, after being away from football for a whole year, after nobody signing him, announces himself back to world football as he stops the penalty from Saloniki. Fiorentina through, and Puskás FC Academy, unfortunately, this isn't the year that they're going to the Conference League, but 19 years into their existence, technically, they lost 9-8 on aggregate against Fiorentina. Puskás Academy, you can hold your head high. Now, after all of that drama happened yesterday, this morning, we had the Europa League and Conference League draws. I'm not going to go through every single matchup like we did yesterday for the Champions League, just because there's a lot, and a lot of them aren't really that appealing. But some of the key headlines that we could be looking forward to here in the Europa League, we have Mourinho back against Manchester United. Mourinho obviously now coaching Fenerbahce. Manchester United with Ten Hag are going to have to take a trip to his house. That should be interesting to see how that goes. United also has to go to Porto, and as a Benfica fan, I know that Porto is an extremely tough team to beat, especially in their house. So 2 tough away games there for Manchester United, and they also got Rangers at home, which could provide a lot of interesting situations here for Manchester United, although I do think Manchester United will fancy their way through, probably in that top 8. Probably the hardest draw that I saw here was Ajax. I mean, Ajax have to go to Lazio. They have to go to Besiktas, and they have to go to Galatasaray. Some of the hardest places to play in Europe right there. Those 3 away games are going to be super difficult. And then at home, they also receive Real Sociedad, who is always a great team, always a formidable opponent. So Ajax kind of got the short hand of the stick there. Another game that I'm really looking forward to is Besiktas versus Frankfurt in Turkey. 2 of probably the most crazy fan bases. Frankfurt fans travel really well. So seeing those Frankfurt fans going to Turkey, hopefully it's all safe. Hopefully no issues arrive. And then Tottenham, they've got Roma at home, but then they also have to go to Rangers, which is a place that Ange Postecoglou will obviously know well. Being at Celtic for, I believe it was like 2 or 3 years, they obviously have that big rivalry there. So Ange going back into St. James Park, I believe that's what the Rangers stadium is called. And then they have Galatasaray away, so not terribly difficult for Tottenham, but also probably not very easy there. And then the Conference League, I mean, I know we talked about the Chelsea struggles, but the Conference League is Chelsea's to lose. Chelsea has to win the Conference League. I mean, they got Ghent, Heidenheim, Astana, the Shamrock Rovers, Panathinaikos, which is one of the teams that we talked about, had some late drama here today, and Noah. I mean, that was another team that had a late comeback. They already provided some heroics in the qualifiers. Can they pull something off against Chelsea? I fully believe that Chelsea should win all of these games. They should be first in the league table. They should be first throughout the whole damn Conference League. Chelsea, if you want to get yourself back on track, go out and win the Conference League. We're looking at some of the other teams in it who could provide a little bit of competition to Chelsea. We've got Real Betis, who is obviously always a good team. Fiorentina, who we just talked about with David De Gea. Copenhagen, who, if you know, last year provided a lot of issues for Manchester United and is the reason that Manchester United wasn't playing in Europe, not even in the Europa League last year. And then we have Vitória Setúbal, who you might not know, but I'm Portuguese, so I'm putting them on there. Also a very tough opponent. Just looking at the rest of the field, I think those are the guys who can really provide Chelsea some issues. Now let's switch from football to football. Because last night we had a massive slate of college football. We had 4 ranked teams in action. We had number 11, Missouri, with who everybody thought or was thinking is the best wide receiver in college football. Maybe there's a little bit of a discussion. We're going to talk about that Colorado game a little bit later. Luther Burden, who did have a slow night, only 39 yards, 1 receiving touchdown for Missouri, period. But 4 rushing touchdowns gave him a 51-0 win over Murray State. So great start there for Missouri. We had number 12, Utah, with 7th-year quarterback Cameron Rising. He went for 254 yards, 5 touchdowns, added on 25 more rushing yards to that. 49-0 win over Southern Utah. Never really a doubt there. Never really thought anything different was going to happen there. Number 22, Kansas, who just set up their basketball school, got the job done versus Lindenwood, 48-3. Devin Neal, 112 rushing yards for 2 touchdowns. And then number 24, NC State, probably had the closest call of the night, 38-21 win over Western Carolina. Western Carolina quarterback Cole Gonzalez, 211 yards with 2 touchdowns in the air, and also led the team with 75 rushing yards, so proving that he can do it in the air and on the ground. Their schedule gets a lot easier for Western Carolina. Is Cole Gonzalez going to get NFL looks? I don't know, but if there is some time to prove himself, it's coming up here in the season. And then we had 2 massive blowouts because, listen, I don't care who you're playing, but if you put up over 70 points, that's just impressive, period. And that's exactly what SF Austin did. Put up 77 points on North American University, who put up 0. And then Arkansas also put up 70 on the Arkansas Pine Bluff. Shout out to those guys. But the biggest college football story of the night took place in the mountains of Colorado as the Colorado Buffaloes took on the Bison of North Dakota, and what a game it was. Probably one of the better games that I have watched in a while. Maybe it's just a little bit of bias because football is just now back and the offseason was long. But I thoroughly enjoyed watching that game last night. I mean, Cam Miller, the quarterback for North Dakota, really stuck out to me. I mean, he's a senior. Last year, he had 2,687 yards for 19 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. The year before that, he had 1,975 yards. He's 31-7 as a starter. Now, me personally, I've never heard of this guy. Maybe that's on me for not watching North Dakota football, especially after Carson Wentz came out of there, even though he's kind of struggled in the NFL. But, man, can that guy do everything? I mean, he had pressure in his face 24/7 throughout the whole game. The Colorado Buffaloes were rushing people at his face. He was getting the ball out quick. He was doing it with his legs. I'm pretty sure he was their leading rusher as well. He had 277 passing yards for 1 touchdown and led the team in rushing for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's impressive. He's quick. He's got jukes. He was spinning out of tackles and making plays. I mean, that guy is a legitimate baller, and I can see him doing it on an NFL level. If not as a starter, as a great, great, great backup. Shout out to Cam Miller. Much respect after watching that game last night. And speaking of getting rushed 24/7, Shedeur Sanders behind this new revamped offensive line with 5 new offensive linemen, 5 new pieces on there. I mean, granted, they still need time to kind of figure each other out and mesh and play well together. But damn, was Shedeur Sanders getting pressured. Again, much like Cameron Miller, getting the ball out fast, getting the ball out deep to his receivers. 445 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception, but it was like an interception that's never going to happen again. The defender is laying on the ground. It seems like he was trying to throw the ball to his receiver in the end zone. He kind of aims it down. It bounces off like the defender's calf while the defender is laying on the ground. Pops up, and there's a guy in the end zone who just catches it. You can never blame him for that interception. It's a Looney Tunes sort of interception. But, man, did Shedeur Sanders play well last night. I mean, I feel like there was times where, especially on like that big bomb to Jimmy Horn, who is an absolute dog, I feel like that, like the ball kind of seems a little shaky coming out of his hand, but I don't want to nitpick. I don't want to take away from anything that Shedeur did last night. He absolutely balled out. 17 yards on 6 carries as well. Rushing from him. Jimmy Horn. Can we talk about... He is an absolute dog. He might be the fastest player that I've ever seen on a football field. 198 yards. A 69-yard touchdown. 2 hands on Shedeur. One defender pulling him from here. One defender pulling him from there. He just throws that ball up. I mean... He looked good, man, and me personally being a Giants fan, if this year, I think we're going to do well this year, but if we don't and we end up in a position where we have to take Shedeur Sanders or we get to take Shedeur Sanders behind that Giants offensive line, which isn't going to give him much protection, it seems like he can get it done. So Shedeur, massive shout out to you. And then Travis Hunter, 132 yards, 3 touchdowns, one of which was probably the best catch that I have ever seen on a football field. Never been done before. I'm pretty sure Travis couldn't catch a ball like that even if he tried to do it again. I mean, we're going to talk about that catch a little bit later here when we start off our brand new tradition. Colorado, man, they look good. Their defense is very, very, very shaky. Their defense needs work. I mean, Trevor Woods, senior, he's been at Colorado for 4 years. He absolutely balled out. Shiloh, I think that he has a little bit of a temperamental issue. There was a drive that could have stalled by North Dakota, but Shiloh kind of gets a late hit in there. North Dakota ends up getting 3 points off of that, so obviously you got to clean that up. I'm sure Coach will talk to him, a.k.a. Dad. That's kind of weird. They do have Nebraska next, and Nebraska is not no North Dakota. North Dakota is great. Cam Miller is great, but Nebraska is going to be putting up a lot of points if this Colorado defense does not get better here within this week. But, man, that game was amazing. That game was awesome. I loved watching that game. And games that we're going to be watching tonight, we've got number 16 Oklahoma versus Temple. I'm picking Oklahoma in that game there for college football. And then tomorrow, we've got a couple of early games there as well. So I'm just going to give you guys my prediction now because I feel like I won't get an episode out before these games, so I just want to give you guys my prediction. We've got number 14 Clemson versus number 1 Georgia. That game is kicking off at noon. And I got to pick Georgia. I mean, Georgia coming off, they're the number one team in the nation for a reason. You got to prove that you can beat Georgia. I'm taking Georgia. We've got number 25, Iowa versus Illinois. These games are all at noon. I'm going to take Iowa on there. Hopefully, Iowa can figure some stuff out here on the offense this year. Their defense, you already know it's going to be great. We've got number 8, Penn State versus West Virginia. Now, West Virginia seems to be fired up. Pat McAfee was out there doing the show. West Virginia seems to be buzzing. And I think they could keep it close, but I'm going to take Penn State there in that game. Sorry, Pat McAfee. Absolutely love you. We've got 15th Tennessee taking on Chattanooga. I feel like Chattanooga isn't going to really pose much threat to Tennessee, so I'm taking Tennessee on that one. We've got the battle for Florida kicking off at 3 p.m. We've got Miami versus Florida. Everybody's saying that the U is back. The U is back, but not going to believe it until I see. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I'm going to take Miami. I'm going to take Miami. I think that they'll be able to outlast Florida, but I think it'll be a great game. I think it'll be a tough game. I think that we should expect some fights in that game. We've got Colorado State versus number 4 Texas. Quinn Ewers obviously coming back. I think Quinn Ewers is absolutely going to ball out. Start the game off right. Colorado State did give Colorado a game last year. They're a great team, but I think that Texas will be able to beat them. And then we've got Akron versus Ohio State, also at 3 p.m. And I'm taking Ohio State. Ohio State has the best lineup that they've had in years. Let's see if they can get it off to a right start. I think that against Akron, they should have no problems doing so. Then late tomorrow, we obviously have Alabama, Ole Miss, Kansas State, Oregon, Michigan. We've got all of their games kicking off. I'll give you guys my prediction for that one tomorrow because I will get a video out before 7 p.m. But the big game, Notre Dame versus A&M. Notre Dame ranked 7th in the nation. A&M ranked 20th. We'll talk about those games tomorrow. In the world of soccer, at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, wake up, rise and shine. It's time to watch some soccer. We've got Arsenal versus Brighton. I'm going to take Arsenal there. I think Arsenal will be able to beat Brighton. They should be able to beat Brighton, especially at home. We've got West Ham versus City at 12:30 in the Premier League as well. We've got a couple of other games, but these are kind of just the bigger games, and I'm going to take City. Obviously, in La Liga tomorrow at 11 a.m., we've got Barcelona versus Real Valladolid, which is the only team that Real Madrid have beaten this year. Again, it only has been 3 games. So I'm going to take Barcelona there. We've got the battle of the Athletic Club Bilbao versus Atletico de Madrid. I'm going to take Atletico to get their first win of the season. Actually, no, I think Atletico already have a win. Maybe their second win of the season. I don't know. Don't quote me on there. In the Bundesliga, we've got Leipzig versus Leverkusen, and I am so tempted. I really think that Leipzig is going to win this game. But going back to last year, Bayern never losing. I think it's going to be a tie. But I'm leaning Red Bull. But I'm going to say a tie just to be safe. We've got AC Milan, who's looking for their first win of the season, versus Lazio at 2:45. And I think that AC Milan will get their first win of the season when they take on Lazio. Obviously, tomorrow, all those games are going to happen, so I'll be back to cover those. But real quick, before we're out of here, I got to give you a hot take. And we got to start a new tradition. Hot take of the day. Real Madrid plays better without Mbappe. I'm not saying that he's not going to work at Real Madrid. I'm not saying that he's a bust. But right now, Mbappe cannot be a striker. He is simply a winger. You have to play him at his natural position. Playing him striker, he is yet to score in the league. As soon as he got subbed off and Endrick took his spot, that's when Endrick went through and scored, because Endrick is more of a striker than Mbappe. There's a lot to figure out there for Ancelotti with Mbappe, Vinny, who's going to play the wing, who's going to play in the middle, who's going to play on the right. Can Rodrigo be shifted into the middle, Mbappe out to the right? There's a lot to figure out, but right now, you have to admit it, Madrid plays better without Mbappe. And now to start a brand new tradition here on our show, behind us, obviously we have the Wall of Greatness with some of my greatest and favorite players or moments in all of sports. To the left here, we have an empty brick wall that we will fill out and will be the Wall of Dogs. Whoever had the best performance or best moment last night in all of sports will be immortalized on there throughout the season on the Wall of Dogs. And with the first edition, it has to be Travis Hunter with probably one of the best catches that I've ever seen on a football field last night. 132 yards, 3 touchdowns versus North Dakota. It is my pleasure to add Travis Hunter as the first edition to the wall of dogs throughout the season. We'll see who's going to join him. But every day, somebody will join him until the whole wall is filled out throughout this upcoming season. I appreciate you guys for watching. And if you've made it this far and haven't subscribed or haven't hit the like button, please do so. It helped me out immensely. Also, go down into the description, follow all of our socials, join up the Discord. If you're going out tonight, make sure to have fun, but be safe. Happy Labor Day weekend. We will be back tomorrow talking all things college football, all things soccer, all things sports, period. Whatever happens tonight, I'll be back to cover it all tomorrow. Also, tomorrow night, we will be going to the New York Red Bulls game, so we'll have a vlog out probably Sunday or Monday for that. And as always, back tomorrow.